Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Chris, and today I wanted to talk about the rise and fall of the gold standard and what it means for where we are in the current financial environment, especially post 2008, with the Fed controlling pretty much all the financial markets with Fed rate policy and asset purchases. Very interesting times. I believe that the Russian central bank pegged the ruble to gold price, and then also created artificial demand in requesting that all payments for their energy exports be paid in ruble, which has driven up the price of the ruble. It's a crazy environment to think about, though, because just a few short months ago, people were talking about China and Russia are going to be able to get off of the dollar as the petrodollar, as the world standard, and this and that and the other thing. Look at how Russia's exporting weapons, to nearby nations, India and other countries, and people saying that they're going to basically start exerting that influence. My take on that is obviously the war in Ukraine has done nothing but tarnished that image for the most part. But as far as how it transitions into gold, and the gold standard in particular, it's actually pretty interesting, because when you think about it, the gold standard really was destroyed by war. I mean, the one that most people point to as far as our own particular gold standard is obviously World War One, and the government's ability or inability to expand the money supply because of basing the fiat on gold and gold reserves. And not being able to expand that money supply in times of turmoil, war primarily, was a theme even before the World War One. For example, France had that same problem when they were having their conflict with the United Kingdom, who United Kingdom basically in modern times is the one that really established the type of gold standard that we think of. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Sir Isaac Newton that kind of transitioned the world from silver as being the most recognized form of currency or monetary exchange to gold. And the way he did it was by basically debasing silver so that the demand would go for gold. Which is interesting, and this is something too that as far as debasement of a currency, it's something that we've seen time and time again throughout history. Very interesting. That's what happened to the Romans. I mean, all of these things make me wonder whether the gold standard would really ever be the answer. It's a lot of, especially for the stocking community, a lot of them point to, well, you want your currency to be backed by something that's tangible, right? And that makes perfect logical sense. You don't necessarily want something that's such as our current fiat, which is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. But that being the case, there are the inherent downsides to having something like that. And as far as it ever being a possibility into the future, at least with the current way that our monetary system works, our financial systems, mainly because, let's think about it this way. If they reinstituted on a broad scale the gold standard, as far as, each dollar, let's say, was pegged to, a certain amount of gold, even if that were the case, you wouldn't be able to go turn your money in for gold because there's just not enough. Even if they recalibrated the money to be, okay, $1 is such and such gold, imagine the mechanisms that would have to be in place so that, any person could go redeem their money for gold. And yes, the United States did have the gold window. We know that was a real thing. But, I mean, post-World War II, you can thank France for that, for taking themselves and turning in their dollars for gold, which caused the temporary exit from the gold standard, which never ended. But that would be the case again. And if you think about it, even if we did go back to a gold standard, who would hold the authority to go off that standard at any time? The government. And again with the stacking community, it's a regular a regular theme. The stackers typically don't trust the government, period. So the reality is that type of system just cannot come back in its current form, barring some type of Armageddon. So that being the case, what's the next best thing? Obviously, we all understand that having physical assets even if it's not gold and silver, just physical assets in general, is a way to preserve value. Not necessarily the best way of transacting, but definitely a way of storing value, which these days can be basically like the insurance policy. And we're going to see how well that works out for Russia as far as their economy. They're getting hammered, regardless of what people, the Russia defenders, may say, oh, they're definitely feeling the pain right now. They wouldn't be acting in the way that they are if that wasn't the case. That being said, it's interesting to watch, and we'll see how, this plan that they had to have gold bullion, physical bullion on hand, we'll see how that plays out. My opinion would be that really in the long run it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to provide them value because the system is set up to depend on fiat because of the way transactions go. I mean, you're not going to send a ship full of bullion across the ocean to your trading partner. It's just not going to work that way. It's not feasible. And you can imagine, I mean, think about it, even back hundreds of years ago, there's plenty of bullion lying on the oceans under the ocean, oceans around, all of these different countries, from sunken ships and things like that. It's just not an efficient system. And especially with the way the world works now, I don't think anybody would trust that system. So we'll see how this experiment works with Russia. But again, these are things that for the stacking community, we can definitely learn from to see how, the thoughts and preconceived notions about what the gold standard entails and what it means for the future, how those things really play out in real life. Very interesting. Actually, I had a really interesting comment from somebody a few days ago who asked, well, think about it this way. What if an asteroid hit the Earth? Let's say it was a small asteroid, but it was made almost of gold, entirely of gold. How would that affect the price of gold? Interesting, very interesting, because when you think about the supply and demand aspect of the gold standard, think about, for example, the gold rush. The gold rush was a huge supply of gold that came online, and what did it do? It created inflation. A lot of people don't remember or don't recognize that was the case. So many different aspects of things that you don't think about because it's outside the normal range of possibilities that you would think, that you would contemplate. But they're all real, they're all real things that could happen. Very interesting. But these days, as with everything, it's wait and see. So that's it for today. See you later.